Hello, everyone. I'm Jeevat from Scholarship Track. Today, we have with us Kunal Verma. He's in his final year at BITS Hyderabad, and he got an offer for his software engineering internship from Facebook London last year. And we have Taranpreet Singh, who has been selected as the interviewee for the mock interview by Kunal. Taranpreet is an ACM ICPC Asia West finalist, and he's one of the top 20 coders in India on Code Forces. It's great to have you guys here. Thank you. So, how the event will proceed is we have a few questions for Kunal from our side, and after that we'll have a live Q&A. This will go on for about 45 minutes, after which we'll start with the mock interview. And just so you guys know, Taranpreet does not know the questions beforehand. So, yeah, we'll start with the questions with Kunal. Uh, all right. So, my first question to Kunal is just tell us about your journey in competitive programming and how should someone who is not really into it yet should start their journey.
All right. Before I get into competitive programming, let's. So I was always into discrete math and stuff that relates to like prefaces competitive programming. So before college, I was into math, and I was doing Olympiad math before college, and that helped me actually when once I got into college. There was this senior who I was very lucky to meet actually, and he. Like after talking a bit with him, he suggested that I start competitive programming, and during my first year, like in the first week or second week itself, I started competitive programming, and the senior used to guide me a lot in the beginning, and yeah, after a while I was self-sufficient, and by the end of the first year, I was good enough to seriously consider myself for ICPC next year onwards. So eventually, in my first year, I did go to a competition. I went to the Top Coder Humble Food Cup Finals. That's organized by Triple IT Allahabad every year. Went there. I was, I think, the only fresher back then, because
That's great.
really few people do competitive programming in their first year, and that's the perfect time to start it, in my opinion. And after that second year, I went to ACM ICPC in the Amritapuri regional. It was okay. It was not amazing, but that was a first experience. In general, in my opinion, if you need to do well in ICPC, you need to be there a few times if you want to do well there. Uh, all right. After that, by the time I reached my third year, I was decent enough. I considered myself that okay, I might have a shot. Like I was not the best in India, but I was around in top hundreds of India. So at this time, I seriously started considering preparing for ICPC. At this time, I also went to Top Coder Open, the Indian regionals that was held in 2019, and yeah, I did well there as well. And after that, basically prepared for ICPC and eventually qualified from the regionals to the Asia West finals, where we did pretty well. Yeah.
That's great. So about the second part, so that was your journey. So for someone who's like maybe in his first year, or like, is it very late if in the second year, and how should they go about it? Like maybe everyone is not as lucky as you to find a great senior.
Yeah, so second year is not too late. In my college itself, and I think BITS Hyderabad is one of the better places when it comes to competitive programming culture in India. And in my college itself, I've noticed that a lot of the good people start competitive programming in the second year. Like in first year, it's very rare to see like people who start in first year. That's very good for them. They have an advantage, of course, but even if you start in second year, there are people who do very well there. And in fact, the majority of people who are uh, at the highest level in our college are people who started in second year. So that's not a concern. There are even, in fact, even I know some people who started in third year and are doing really well in their fourth year right now. Those are exceptions. I won't count them as a generic parameter, but yeah, second year should be good enough. Now to the other part, how you start competitive programming. In my opinion, and this is followed pretty commonly in my college is that you should start competitive programming with another person, with another friend, and like you probably wouldn't be short of people who want to do competitive programming because now like nowadays everyone knows the benefits of competitive programming, but eventually you don't do that for the sake of getting a job or something. If you do that, it's like really unlikely you'll get very good at it. You do it for the fun of it. And I did start competitive programming with a friend, and there was this healthy, like we were in the beginning, we were very similar in levels. We knew a programming language from school, but we didn't have any competitive programming experience from before. So that was a very beneficial environment for both of us because uh, we both could, uh, we both used to challenge each other in a healthy way, basically, and like we both pushed each other to improve ourselves, and that accelerates the process a lot. Eventually I got out of this practice, not because I wanted to but because I just lost the track of it. But yeah, I think that if you're getting good, if you're getting much better than someone, you should side by side find new people who are much better than you or who are around the same level as you. So that's one thing which won't commonly be covered in by common, like in common answers related to it. Other than that, in competitive programming, the key to do it in improving is always keep doing it. Don't like back down at any point of time because it's all about practice. It's all about the more questions you practice, the better you get. The better, the more fast you become, basically.
All right.
Apart from that, getting better at it is you basically solve problems that are slightly above your level. uh, that depends on you. How much above your level depends on you. If you're a person who is fine with doing problems, doing like five problems, and you're able to solve only one problem, and you have to see four editorials, then good for you. If you're a person who needs more problems to solve, who needs to solve more problems, then that's fine too. But in general, if you're doing higher level of problems, your rate of growth would be faster, in my opinion. Yeah.
All right. Okay. That was a great insight for everyone. So the second question is, how did you get selected for Facebook interviews?
So this is bit tricky because I don't think that they, like in particular, I attributed 70% or 60% to luck, because eventually I was just approached by a recruiter on LinkedIn out of nowhere. I didn't apply anywhere on Facebook. Uh, and yeah, I just got approached one day randomly. One things that I may, if I have to nitpick down things that might have contributed to that, was that maybe I set up my LinkedIn profile really well. It was complete. There was nothing missing. I mentioned all my achievements, and yeah, and like it looked professional. At least it looked professional at a basic level. And apart from that, of course, being good at something, being like standing out of the normal college norm, like a normal CS undergraduate, that helps as well. uh, like most of the people uh, who selected who got selected in Facebook, I saw a pattern that they were usually people who had at least one thing on their resume that was not common, like a normal college student wouldn't have. So, and the easiest way, in my opinion, is competitive programming. But that is not to say that people who don't do competitive programming don't get selected at all.
All right. So it's like an overall resume, and that's what they see.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So following up on that is, what are your suggestions regarding resume building for aspirants? As in, for somebody who is into competitive programming and somebody who's not. Like, you must have interacted with the people who were there in your cohort, so you must have got to know what was their resume like, and how were they shortlisted.
So right off the bat, obviously, I don't like I never endorse lying on resume. So please don't
Okay.
do that. That's the first thing. Uh, uh, Resume building, like how good your resume eventually depends on how good your content is. It everything is fine if you're like if the content if the work that you've done is solid, then resume building won't be a big task in my opinion. But in general, some general pointers are: mention, if you're mentioning projects, for example, or you're mentioning work experience, mention them in bullet points and mention them like what did you do, what was the task, and what impact did that create. And if you can include numbers with that, that's great as well. That's much more preferable. Apart from that, for your achievements, even in achievements, so for someone who's doing competitive programming and suppose they did pretty well in ICPC, they were rank sixth in ICPC, and so don't just write rank six, please. So just don't just write rank six, please. Write like rank six out of how many people. Like if suppose you came rank number 12 in the online round, like the person who is reading your resume is not going to verify how out of how many people you came rank 12. For anything, he can assume that you came rank 12 out of 13 people, and that's not very good. Yeah, but if you rank 12 out of 4,000 or 5,000 people, that's good, right? So yeah, there's that. So mention numbers. That's my one advice. And mention things that you're comfortable with on your resume. Never mention stuff that you're not comfortable with on your resume. Otherwise, because in interviews, even if you get an interview, in interviews everything is fair game on your resume. And if they ask you something that you don't know on your resume, then that's a big red flag. So please, yeah.
All right. So, like you said that you should mention what you know, and you should mention about your other projects and stuff. So, how much were you questioned upon on your projects?
In internships particularly, so in Facebook internships, I don't think the project matters a lot because they pair you up with an interviewer who is like who's who's comfortable with your profile basically, because like they have a similar profile, they had a similar profile in college, like they pair you up with people like that. So in my case, projects didn't matter much because that was not my main focal point of my resume. My projects were pretty simple. They were projects that I did in my coursework, so I don't like rate them very highly. It's much different now, but back then it was just that. So I
All
was
right.
quizzed like just 5 minutes on that, and it was very informal.
Okay, okay. Understood. So, for a software engineering internship, you're saying that your projects are not a lot focused on if you have a competitive programming profile. That was the case for you.
Um, yeah, for me, for it was uh, like again, I'm not saying that you should do competitive programming to get an internship at Facebook, but if I'm just going by statistics, most people who got in who did competitive programming, because in my opinion that's the most easiest way to show you're good at something, because there are numbers involved in competitive programming to compare with other people.
All right. Thanks a lot. Um, so the second question, which like everybody wants to know, is how did you prepare and eventually succeed at the interviews? Like, what is a suggested timeline? What did you follow? What was your process?
Okay, so I actually didn't have any much time to plan anything because I think I got my interview invite on August. I would say August 8th, and my interview was on August 11th. So that was it, just 2 days, and I had no interview experience before. Facebook Live was my only company that I interviewed for an internship. So it was very scary, first of all, because I never expected that I would be interviewing for Facebook for my first interview. So, but I just went through. So provide Facebook is very nice in terms of this because they provide you with all the resources that you might need for preparing for the interviews. So they mail you the list and they tell you everything that they might ask you in an interview. They tell you all the topics as well. So just go through that. For Facebook, it's like your interview could be a online interview, could be a telephonic call interview, or it could be a whiteboarding interview. So whiteboarding interviews are in-person interviews, and telephonic calls are obviously virtual interviews. So this year, if they do take interviews, they would be virtual, obviously because of COVID-19. But uh, my interview was a whiteboard interview. So for I can advise for whiteboard interviews as well generic for uh, phone interviews as well. So for whiteboard interviews, like the name says, whiteboard, practice writing on a whiteboard, practice writing code on a whiteboard, because without syntax highlighting, without syntax completion, without basically a editor in front of you, it's very easy to make mistakes in your code. So practice doing that. I had a whiteboard in my college room and I practiced a lot on that with a friend. So which brings me to the next point: practice mock interviews with your friends, with a friend or with a senior who is more experienced. So practice doing that, and yeah, and try to make the environment as realistic as possible. Try try avoiding comfort zones in your mock interviews. If and time yourself. If you're exceeding that time, like stop the interview there and look back, reflect back. Apart from that, for general interviewing tips, don't just for just coding interviews, don't straight away dive into the code. Never start coding immediately. Ask questions to the interview, verify the input. The interview might leave your problem vague intentionally, so verify the input, verify exactly what they're asking, and yeah, so spend around 4 to 5 minutes per question on just this. Don't straight dive into it, and ex- think out loud. Explain your thought process to your interviewer. Don't think to yourself, because it might, like, the person wants to know how you think. Basically, the interviewer wants to know how you think, not uh, and that's more important than solving the problem. Of course, solving the problem is important, but that's another thing that's really important to the interviewer. And after that, while you're coding, don't make mistakes. If you're making mistake, make sure you're spotting them before your interviewer does. So even if they do, that's not, don't panic at any point of the interview, but try to find mistakes on your own. Try to be as independent as possible. If the interviewer is giving you a hint, take that hint, listen to the interviewer. Don't be in your own thought process at all points of time, and test your code, of course. So never forget to test your code uh, at the end of your coding. And if you find a mistake, correct that after the test code, after testing. If you correct a mistake after testing, then that's very good sign, because you didn't take the interviewer's help to correct the mistake. If after testing you're not able to find your mistake, then that's not a good sign. So yeah.
All right. Another question is, what was the level of difficulty that one can expect in a Facebook interview? So, like, people usually resort to just doing lead code, grinding lead code. So, what should their approach be? What is the difficulty level of the questions that one should be practicing?
So in general, like, if you, in my opinion, if you do get an interview at Facebook, you shouldn't be scared at all, because the criteria for getting an interview is much harder than the interview itself. Uh, in my opinion, like, the problems are like lead code medium, and if they do ask you a lead code medium problem, there would be two probably in 45 minutes to solve. And otherwise, you could get a lead code hard. But if you're getting an interview, you would probably be comfortable with these levels. And yeah, the problems are pretty simple. I know companies which ask much harder problems, so you shouldn't be scared at all for the interview. It's just Facebook is a big name, but they do ask reasonable problems.
All right, got it. So, did you go about like doing lead code? Like, you didn't have time for your Facebook interview, but in general, like before appearing for the interview.
I was pretty confident about the problem solving part, because I had been doing computer programming for 2 years, and that's like very closely related to the stuff that we see on lead code. So I was confident about that. I just read some interview tips. In fact, Facebook provided us with interview tips as well. So just went through that. Uh, I did go through a video by Gail Lachman. It's a very famous. She's the author of a very famous book called "Cracking the Coding Interview." So there's a video of her discussing basic interviewing stuff. So that's a very informative video. I would recommend everyone to check that, regardless of a Facebook interview or not. And yeah, that was about it that I prepared, and just some mock interviews, not much lead code.
Okay, understood. Thanks a lot. So we'll now move to the live Q&A. Um, so Okay, so like I'll just display a few of the questions we got. We'll start from the beginning. So
All
this
right.
is question from Siddharth.
All right. So you have, I have a referral from Facebook. Got the mail. What is the process after this? I'm not sure. I didn't apply through a referral, so I'm not sure uh, how it works after the referral. Uh, I'm not sure. Yeah. So I don't think I can answer this question particularly because I didn't go through this process.
Okay. All right.
What would you suggest to head up as a sophomore, algorithmic programming or development field? So, I advise you to not base your opinion on any company's interviews. Yes, you need to do competitive programming, not competitive programming as per, but you need to solve interview questions before your third year software engineering interviews, software internship interviews, or your fourth year full time role interviews. But I wouldn't suggest to do stuff just because it would fetch you a job. Uh, do stuff because you like doing that. I like solving problems. I like so I did competitive programming, but I know plenty of people who like doing doing development and did very little competitive programming, and they're doing pretty well right now. So just be convinced in what you're doing.
Okay. There's question from Shivam.
What was your rank on Code Forces or Code Chef or any other platform when you were contacted by a recruiter? I didn't participate much on Code Chef. I participated a lot on Code Forces, but I'm not sure if the recruiters checked those ranks at all. But I think if I remember correctly, I was a yellow coder on Code Forces back then. Yeah, I was around 2100 rated.
Okay. There's a question from Samriddhi.
Hey, I'm third year, majoring in EC. I'm super clueless how to get IT internships. Um, so try to contact people, try to contact seniors in EC specifically in your college, or generally people if you know people who do EC and do get IT internships, because I know it's a tricky thing to do because EC is a demanding field and getting an IT internship is a whole game in itself. So if you do want an IT internship, you would need to probably sacrifice some of that time you spend into your EC course, but don't take my word for it. A better person to answer that would be a person who has done EC and is working in IT right now.
Okay. All right. I'm not sure if you will have an answer to this.
No, like I have no experience again with this, so yeah, I can't answer this.
Okay. So this is okay, fine.
How did you start off with competitive coding and best resources for it? Also, how much does college matter to get an interview from Facebook? I'll answer the second question first and then go into the first question because the second question answer is much shorter. The college does not matter at all. Like I can disclose that one of my fellow interns is from a third tier college. So there you have it. So college, they don't specifically look at colleges because eventually Facebook is a company that is not from like there are no software engineering offices of Facebook in India. So they don't have any biases for colleges in India. They have heard of IITs and BITs from from their experiences, but in general they don't have any real biases. So there you have it. Like you shouldn't worry a lot about your college. What matters is your resume and your profile. How did you start off with competitive coding? So I did tell that I started in first year. As for the resources, I started off with Hacker Earth in the beginning and Hacker Rank. So I didn't start immediately competitive programming on Code Forces. That shouldn't stop you either, but like I would suggest start going through Hacker Rank basically, not contests, but just go through problems on Hacker Rank. And once you're comfortable with these basic topics like math and like greedy algorithms and the basic stuff, STL, then I would recommend starting on Code Forces. And once you're in it, don't back down at any point of time. Just keep doing it, and it eventually would happen, and you will improve eventually if you are loyal to yourself, basically. Yeah. How would you suggest I spend on how long would you suggest I would spend on a problem before moving on to the editorial or solution? Okay, so a lot of people have asked me this question before, and I always gave the same answer. Again, this is like depends on you. I have like you shouldn't fix any particular amount of time, in my opinion, to solve a problem. In general, it like if you really want a time, it would be 1 hour for me. But like there have been instances a lot of times that I'm stuck on a problem, and kept I've kept at it for 2 days or 3 days because I feel that I'm close to the solution, so I don't want to look at the solution. And there have been times that I see a problem and I know for sure that I can't solve this problem because I am getting no idea after 30 minutes. So I just see the solution there itself and implement it. Uh, One thing is key is what you do after seeing the solution, and I advise you always implement the solution after seeing it because that trains you to be a good programmer, uh, even if you fail at thinking part of the problem. So it's as important to be a good programmer as it is to solve the problem itself. Apart from that, there's a way to seeing solutions as well. I follow this method is that when I start seeing an editorial, I see the editorial to the first point where I see that I haven't thought of this part before in the solution, and I try thinking the problem again. I go back to the problem again and I start thinking again. If I'm able to solve the problem, then great. Otherwise, I'll come back again and do this process again. If after 2 tries I'm not able to solve the problem, then I see the editorial and implement it. So that's my suggestion to seeing editorials and solutions.
Okay, that was helpful. So Shivam's second part of the question is, were you active on LinkedIn? I think you
Uh,
can answer that. I think you were contacted on LinkedIn, if I'm not wrong.
I was like I did message recruiters a bit on LinkedIn, but I don't think that related a lot to uh, what I like what eventually happened. But yeah, it helps to have a good profile, like because if you have a well organized profile, it's easy for the recruiter to gauge if you're a suitable fit or not. But I wasn't like into networking and all back then.
Okay, thanks. Um, Yukta's question.
Which platform you discovered for competitive programming? If I understood that question correctly, um, like I said, I started from HackerRank, and like within 1 or 2 months, I just moved into Code Forces. Apart from that, I would advise you to stick to one platform. I would advise platform practice on every platform because from about 3 years of competitive programming, I've seen that different platforms offer different advantages to each advantage to competitive programming. So for short contests, the best platform, in my opinion, is Codeforces. For contests which are slightly challenging in terms of data structures and algorithms, and it requires a lot of thinking, is Topcoder, and the time is really short there, and it's a very unique platform. So I would advise people who are a bit into competitive programming, who have been doing it for about half a year or 1 year now, to move into Topcoder because that's a great platform as well, which gets neglected a lot. Uh, Apart from that, CodeChef is a good platform to improve, to like get that skill of staying put at a problem and gritting out a solution. I haven't personally done a lot of CodeChef. I have done like in comparison to other platforms, but I have observed that it's a great platform to be on too. And recently upcoming is a platform called Art Coder, where there are great problems. Where like in particular mathematical problems are particularly very great on Art Coder. So that's and like participation is pretty low there, but that's a great platform too. So these four platforms I particularly suggest that people should look into. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thanks for that. We have a question from Samriddhi, which is asked a lot, and
I'm a C++ developer. I have been doing using C++ for I guess 5 years or 6 years now. And in my internship even I use C++. So I would say that I'm pretty much into C++. But that like if the intention of this question is that like programming language particularly decides what you whether you get selected in Facebook or not, that's not true at all. uh, like you should know one programming language very well, that's my opinion. And you should be like a person who learns things fast. So because most probably on your job you won't be using your personal favorite language at all. You would be using something proprietary from the company if you're working at a large product company basically. So be someone who's fast at learning rather than sticks at one programming language.
okay, great. We have one interesting question from Anu.
I feel learning concepts is easier than keep revising it. Can you suggest your way of revising the concepts, like the frequency of revision and so on, and stay updated with all the DS and algo? So I don't think that I like set aside time for revising stuff and set aside time for learning concepts. So my way of learning something new, in particularly in competitive programming, was that I would see a new problem and I would see first of all make sure that it's within my reach, it's slightly above my reach. And if I'm practicing a problem, I would try to attempt that problem. And if I can't solve that problem, I look through the editorial. And if like it's a new concept, I would read that topic. I would go through all the resources like CP algorithms and HackerEarth. And if after reading that resource, I would try solving two or three problems on it. I would stick to problems that are like not beginner level at all, those like not cakewalk problems. I would try problems that are intermediate to hard level on those. So that would help me develop a intuition of that topic very well. Uh, but eventually it all comes down to practice. There's no way around that. Like you can learn as many algorithms as you want, but that like being good at one particular algorithm, being good at three algorithms is in my opinion much better than knowing 10 algorithms. Yeah.
Okay, I hope Anu got it. There's a question which is like follow up to this, like you said that a particular way to proceed things. So this is Shivam's question.
Yeah, so like so your question is, did you complete all the DS and algo first and move into competitive programming, or you learned on the way? So just like mentioned in my previous answer, I solved problems and I then learned topics as per need. So they like you can't possibly learn all the possible DS and algo uh, from beforehand. And even if you do that, that's like a very bad way to approach this because it will all get crammed in your head, and you won't be able to identify problems as they are like. So I would suggest uh, don't do that, please.
Um, okay, this is a question that like everyone wants to know, including me.
How do you approach a DP problem you haven't seen before? Um, all right, so like I don't have any fixed answer to this. In particular, DP is like one of my favorite topics. I was like it comes very intuitively to me. Uh, One particular good resource I would say to learn DP is the MIT OCW lecture on DP. That created a good intuition for me. Basically, in my opinion, how I see DP is that you're trying to see all the states in the universe, but you're not like computing any state again. So try to imagine as many options as possible from a given state, and then solve the problem, and then like combine those options into one formula or something like that. So yeah, just try to consider as many options as possible. That's what my advice is. I know that's very vague, that's a very vague way of saying things, but yeah, that's about as good as I can put it. DP comes with practice problems on code forces. Uh, yeah, that I can't like elaborate on that because everything is practice in the end.
Okay. So, Kushi question is any particular resource you found useful while learning DS Algo basics, and like particularly for
There is
DP, if you can suggest,
for DP particularly, like I said,
like
just watch
for
this
general DS Algo, and then for DP, if like apart from that,
General
because
DS Algo. There's this very good website which I would recommend if you're into competitive programming. You know the basic stuff like time complexity and space complexity and the STL part. Then there's this very good website called CP Algorithms, cp-algorithms.com. I think everyone from every basic level person to every very advanced level people use this website to learn things because it's a very good resource because it explores problems that are beyond the scope of just the topic. Like it tries to list down all the possible ways you can think of using that tool in a particular problem. So that's a very good resource in my opinion. And other than that, hacker tutorials are fine. Top coder tutorials are good. Uh, YouTube channels are okay for some particular topics, but I don't think there's a lot of resources which go deep into advanced topics. Uh, as for DP, MIT OCW, that was a great lecture to build my intuition in DP. But eventually, DP is all about intuition, and intuition develops with practice. So, no particular resources in DP, just practice a lot. I'm sorry, just a second. Uh, there's some problem with my. Your voice is not coming.
okay, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so I was saying we have just one last question from Sheikh, and then we move on to the mock interview.
All right. Any last minute preparation tips you would like to share? Last minute for what? Internship season? Or I'm not sure. Okay, so I assume that it's for internship season. Um, yeah, so be confident. That's the entire game of internships and for interviewing in general as well. Be confident at all points of time. And like if at any point of it in your interview you feel that something is going wrong or there's a minor setback in your interview, don't react to it. Like assume, like think of ways you can turn that around at that point of time. So be like believe that you can do it eventually. Like it's a very cliche thing to say, but that's a lot very key in your interviews. Other than that, practice a lot. Eventually it's all technical stuff. So yeah, that matters the most.
Okay, thank you. We have 5 minutes, so we'll take one more question from Anil. Okay. Yeah.
How did you start your Codeforces journey? Did you start with a lot of diff 2A problems and then move on to B and C? So in the beginning, I am guilty of this. I started with problems that are really simple. I did like about 80 or 70 diff 2A problems, which in retrospect I wouldn't have done. But yeah, so do a few diff 2As. Diff 2As are pretty simple. Like they don't involve a lot of thinking. So just for the sake of getting into competitive programming, do a few diff 2As and then move on to Bs. Once you're comfortable with solving, like you, once you're I'm not trying to set a number for any person because that's not fair at all. But once you're comfortable, like you start solving diff to Bs, you should move on to Cs. And like a good way to judge you're comfortable with diff to Bs is that every once in a while you're able to solve Bs in contests. Then you move on to Cs, and this is true for every other subsequent category.
All right. Okay. Another question by Anil.
How many hours of coding did you do regularly? I didn't, like in my first 2 years. I didn't count that because my sole focus was competitive programming. Now I don't have just one thing to do. So I do in third year onwards. You need to manage stuff. Like there's a lot of things you should concentrate on. You need to progress a as a like a very balanced CS student rather than just a competitive programmer. But back then, I didn't really count the hours. I just decided things for me, tasks for me, which I would complete in one day, and I just did it as long as it took.
Okay, thanks. So we'll move on to the mock Q&A. I'll Hi, Taranpreet, welcome. So, for those who joined late, I'll introduce Taranpreet again. He's also an ACM ICPC Asia West finalist. He's one of the top 20 coders on Code Forces in India. And Taranpreet is not aware of the questions which Kunal will be asking. So, all the best.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, Tanpreet. Welcome to your interview. How are you doing?
I'm good. What about you?
I'm doing well. So let's start off with yourself. Do you want to introduce yourself first before we start the interview?
I'm Taranpreet, a BCA student, final year student, and I've been doing competitive programming for 3 years now. My handle Taran_1407, and I I also qualified for Asia West finals this January.
Right. That's impressive. And so, Kotaran, before we get into the coding problems, do you want to talk about your projects? Any single project that you're proud of? Do you want to talk about that?
In my in my second year, I had developed a LAN messenger sort of used MySQL ports, and it was based on Java X Swing, so it worked without the internet within a local network. And yeah, I can say it was quite lightweight and fast. So I was proud of it.
Right. And what's the biggest takeaway from your project? What's the best thing that you learned in this project?
In that project, there was the option of going with server sockets, and like variety of options were there, like to for network connectivity. In the end, the way I connected it was really simple, and although there were some security restrictions, uh, I sort of had to bypass them, and I figured out the stuff. There are multiple ways to do anything, so there's always pros and cons for each. The time, so it's good to explore all the options
Right.
rather than
And
just
after
finding
exploring all
for
those
one.
options, you arrived at the best solution and you
Yeah,
implemented that.
in that scenario, the best solution was going for SQL ports.
All right, that's good. That's nice. So we'll start with your interview, Taranpreet. Like in this interview, you'll have two problems, two coding problems in this interview, and this is a 45-minute interview. So, and in the last 5 minutes, if you want to ask me some questions, then that's fine as well. So, with that in mind, let's start this interview. Uh,
Okay.
all right. So, Taranpreet, your first question is you're given a binary search tree, and you need
Mhm.
to return, like, this tree might not be balanced necessarily. So, you need to return a balanced binary search tree to me. You need to rebalance this and return that as well. Uh, do you know what a balanced binary search tree means?
Balanced binary search tree are basically those binary search trees on which the left-right rotations are applied to uh, reduce the height to basically order of log n.
Okay. All right. Right. So, yeah, that's your problem.
Okay, so we have to apply left and right rotations. Uh, okay, like I haven't really got around to implementing, but I'm just thinking like how should I approach it?
All right.
Taranpreet, can you share your screen?
uh, like suppose we have a tree like this. Let's say we can see one. I don't know. Like we see. My idea is like I'm just writing the edges just to list it down. One to two, two, three. Like one is a root here,
Okay.
four is five. So in this case, my idea would be to make like I'll be applying one rotation. Right now, one is root, so it is just a linear tree. So my idea would be to somehow rotate it to like making two the root, to the one being the child of that node.
Okay.
Uh,
Can either of you share your screen?
Like I have the problems open in one tab, so I would not
Taranpreet,
prefer.
can you share yours, the Google Doc while you're coding?
I think I have already shared.
It's not visible.
Mhm. Just a second. Is it visible now?
Not yet.
I don't know. Let me check my network.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's visible now.
it's visible now.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, just a second. My network is breaking, so I can. Mm, network is okay. It is visible, right?
Yeah.
Mm, okay. So my aim is to like rotate in this manner, so it will become. So what we can do is, my idea is to like whenever we have a tree, suppose I pick a root node and suppose the left subtree has a higher depth. So my idea would be that just the next like successor element, I'll just uh, my aim would be to swap that element with the not exactly swap, but make that element as the root so that I can just um, make, make that element as the root. And like in this example, we have one, two, child, two, three, two, three, four, and four, five. So in this case, what I'll be doing is one, the successor of one is two, so I'll make two as the root. So I'll just the initial root would become the child of this node, and the three node, the right child of one, it will become the child of and the rest of the tree remains unaffected. In this way, we have reduced the height of right subtree as like by
So just a
at least
second.
one.
So
And
just a second. I had trouble following you there. So you're saying when you rotate a node,
uh,
you're when you're rotating a
uh,
node. So walk me through what happens when you rotate a node. Regardless of this example, walk me through what happens when you rotate through a node. What's the exact steps of a single rotation?
okay. Single rotation is I'll be going to for from initial node. Suppose I'm doing a left rotation. So what I'm doing is checking the right child of the left child of current node, and if like the right subtree has a uh, depth less than the current node, so my idea would be to move that uh,
The
like
right child of the left side of um.
the current node, the current node.
Okay, okay. So can you write like through an example, like to like make just a full tree and write try explaining me that. Like let's talk about this tree. Let's talk about this tree. Um, so there's this node here, and the left child of this is one, uh, and this has a right child four here, right?
Okay.
And the four, not four. Let's take something better, something like five. Yeah, and this has four, and this has six. Now try rotating on node number three. I know this is like not a problem, but this is a balanced tree. But try rotating on three.
Mhm. So the rotation, I'm just dotting the final, like what I would be getting is my four would become basically the root in this sense,
Okay,
and it will have child. The left child would be three and one, and let's just see. And this one will remain five. Sorry, it will become three, and it will become one here, and
all right,
what I get here is five here, and sorry, uh, child here,
six.
six. So
Okay,
like
so what
that's
was the
the thing I'll
process?
be getting.
What was the process? How did this happen? Like how
From
did you reach from
from
here?
like okay, from this node, I went to the like this is the right left right rotation. Went to the left child of the right child. Like from three, I go to its
You're
right
rotating
child, and
towards the
then
left. You're rotating node three towards the left. Is that right?
yeah.
Okay.
So
So you went to the
in order to
successor
maintain
that
the
is
like
four.
in order to maintain this BSC property, this node we know that the four when going from left from five, we will get a node less than five. So this one has to go to the third position if the that node is moving downside.
Right.
Uh, okay. So in this way, this is what we'll be getting as the final tree.
Okay. All right. So you just swapped. You
Uh,
just put the successor of three as the root and made the left child of three as
mhm.
declares its left child. Is that
Yes.
right? Okay. Um. So a follow up on that. No, just a second. Yeah, that sounds fine because you would always have space to do that. So that sounds fine. The rotation part
Yeah.
sounds fine. Yeah. Now, how do you solve the problem using this?
Okay, so for each node, like my idea would be to first maintain the distance from the leaf node, basically. Like it will be a sort of a bottom DP, we can say. So as soon as I get like a left child, like the difference between the depths of like left child and right child is because in this process we ended up increasing the depth of left child by one, and it, uh, that was
So, like before you go too deep into this, I want to know what type of time complexity and space complexity you're aiming for, because I don't want to get into a solution that might be an overkill eventually. So, what type of time complexity and space complexity are you aiming for?
my aim would be to like order of n time complexity I'm looking for, like visiting each node of the tree once and
What about space?
balance.
What about space?
Space I would be looking for O of one basically in a link like node, basically node
So
representations
so
excluding. excluding the
Let,
tree itself.
let's chill about the O of one space. Let's try to do this in O of n space. What if I allow you to do this in O of n space?
Okay. Okay. So if we have O of n space, we can just like add the nodes in a simple like we can do a pre-order traversal of this tree to get a like sorted list
A pre-order
and
traversal?
pre-order
I'm not sure that.
traversal. Oh, sorry, in
Okay,
order traversal. I meant sorry, sorry.
okay, all
I
right,
meant in order traversal that will actually yield me a sorted list of elements. So
all right,
after that, my aim would be to like divide into middle and that assign that node as the root. So
right,
like so suppose we have for this tree itself. So the sorted array we'll get is 6, and after that my process would be to like assign make this one as the root and the like it will be sort of a recursive procedure. Uh,
okay. So
then
you divide in sub arrays. The left part is
yeah,
divided into sub array, and the
divide
right.
and conquer. So, yeah, and the root of
Right,
will become the child of this node.
right.
Should I write?
That sounds good.
Uh,
That sounds good to me. You can implement
okay.
that instead of rotating stuff. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So like first of all, I'm just assuming a this kind of structure for like in well uh, three nodes. Is that right? Is that like comfortable? I'm using
Yeah.
Java.
So
If
what
that
language? What? Okay, you're using that Java. All right. Yeah, this is
and
fine.
Word doc is like auto capitalizing. So please look over the
You can turn
auto
that off.
capitalize.
So you can turn that off. Like you can
Just a
go
second.
into tools and preferences.
Yeah,
I think
tools.
that's off. I think that's off.
Uh, right. I'm turning it off. Okay. I hope. Okay. And but I'm just assuming now. I'll be just getting this part is implemented, and I'll just get a like link to the root node. That's what I'm assuming, right?
Right. And the left and right nodes would be null in this case.
Yeah. In case of leaves, it will be those will be null. Like
Like
otherwise,
this is
they
your
will be
constructor.
holding.
This is your constructor, right? So
Yeah.
they would be
I
nullified.
just my idea was to like illustrate what structure I'm assuming for implementing my routine.
Okay.
So what actually I'll be returning a structure the bind balance binding search tree to so it will return a tree node structure uh,
Okay.
get balanced BST and I'll be accepting a like unbalanced tree. So
All right.
uh, okay. So in this case, I'll have to implement two routines. First, to like do the in-order traversal of this tree. Uh,
Yeah.
so that will fetch me a list of elements. So let's make a list for like uh, making a vector. Like it will store the sorted list.
Okay.
Uh, okay, sorry. So I'll just implement here a procedure which will just insert the elements in order to. So it will just accept a node and do the. Now it will accept the list also. Like this one will be adding the elements to the list. So what will
So
happen
this is
is
passed
if
by
we
reference or by value? This list is passed by reference
it
or value?
yep passed by reference. Actually in Java these are passed by reference
Okay.
and
Okay.
yeah
Okay.
only that way I can maintain the complexity order of n. Otherwise I'll have to declare a global structure.
Right. Right. That's fine.
So uh, like if we end up like visiting a node which is null like going to a child of leaf maybe so in that case I return immediately. So otherwise what we do is like do in order traversal of left child uh, list no left then insert the current value into the list uh, and do the in order traversal for the right Uh, okay, so yeah, this procedure should return me. So invoking it for the root node. Sorry. Uh, uh, the list, and yeah, at this point the list is holding all the elements in sorted order, and this process is order of n time. My idea
Right.
about doing the in order traversal instead of others was that for others I'll have to sort, and that will shoot the complexity to
Yeah.
n log n.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so now what I'm left with is like suppose n is the like list size, which is the like number of nodes. So now I have to convert this one into a balanced binary search tree. So once again, I'll be implementing a routine. Like my idea would be to choose the middle element as a root and assign left child to be the like root of left subarray, right child to be the root of right subarray.
Got it.
So okay, so
I think,
initially,
yeah, yeah, I get your idea. You
yeah,
can move on to implementing. I get your idea. You can
okay,
move on to implementing.
okay, okay. So let's uh, create balanced BSGs. Now this one will just to refer the uh, list, and like this one, it will also refer to the subarray which is being like converted to I
Right.
can say like low high or left right. I can use whatever,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this will return the like the list which is built right now. So if in case I have low greater than high, I just return null.
Mm-hmm.
Return null. Like in it will happen in this case of leaves. Like they do their child should have this case. Otherwise, I just choose the middle element. Uh, but yeah, sorry. So now this node becomes new tree node. Now I fetch the mid element. So okay, now it's left and right child are null. So if you want, I can just I just created a constructed definition right now. Uh, okay, so
Yeah.
now what will happen is now node dot left the left child will be recursive call to the same process but with change parameters. I'll be just using passing the list because I'm not just for referring the elements, the values low, and
Yeah.
I'll take care not to include mid element because it is already the root.
Covered. Yeah.
Yeah. Now assigning the right child. Okay, so in this case, at this point, the left and right childs are assigned. So I'll just return the root node of this subarray. So
Yeah.
what will happen? And at this point, what I get is like I just need to return the you can say for the whole subarray 0 comma n minus 1 just due to error indices. So I
Yeah.
think this should be the final process.
Yeah.
And running it on like this subarray, what I'll get is first of all I'm uh, running on this tree basically.
Yeah.
So my first procedure, what would it be doing is like I hit this. First, I enter the in order traversal part, and the route is not null right now. It do the left traversal, like it reaches this node one. Now its left child is null. It doesn't enter. Then one is inserted. Then right child is also null. I return back to three and I insert three. Okay, three is inserted now. Then I go to the right child. It has a left child, so I enter into left child. Four is inserted, coming back to five. Then five is inserted, and then going to right child. Six is inserted. So
Right.
I think this function is working fine. This this one, the in order traversal,
Yeah.
and coming to like this process. Okay, create balanced PSG. Initially, it is going for like 0 to n minus 1. N is 5 here. So it will be invoked with 0, 0, comma 4 parameters. I get the mid element to be uh, it should be, I think, 2. Okay, it created a root node with value 2.
Yeah.
So what do we get here? Root with value 4, I meant to say. Like it 2 was index. So
Yeah.
okay, I made this node. Right now the left and right child are null, and I assign the left child to be this the balance tree generated by these ones. And the reason it works is because at every time we are dividing the subarray by half, we increase the depth by 1. So the by halving, uh, we can show that the depth cannot increase more than n log n, sorry, log n.
Yeah.
And I don't think we can get better than that.
Yeah. Okay. So I
So
think I'm pretty much satisfied with the solution. This looks good.
mhm.
I don't see any major problems with this. We can move on to the next problem. So
Okay,
the next problem is I copy paste the problem because it's hard to just say the problem. So
okay,
here's your problem. Just a second. Third
okay.
pointed copy. Third pointed copy or
I think
no, there's
it
no third
copied
pointed
it
copy.
next line.
Just this is fine. Yeah. This is your question.
Okay. Okay, so we can scramble a string S to get a string T using following algorithm. Okay, like we are starting with string S. So if the length is 1, we have to stop. If greater than 1, what we do is split into two non-empty substring at a random. Okay, the both parts should be non-empty, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and randomly decide to swap to substring or keep them in order. So whether I want to know that randomly, it is our choice whether we want to swap or not.
Yeah. Like read through the problem and then we can discuss everything.
Okay, and apply step recursively on each of the two substrings. Okay, so given strings s1 and s2 of same length, return 2 is s2 is a scrambled version of s1. Otherwise, return false.
All right. Yeah. So now doubts for the problem. What are you confused about?
Okay, so in the second step, like we just swap. It is our choice to swap, or like
Yeah.
we have to
It's about
ensure that it matches in
it's
both
your
cases.
choice. It's your choice to whether keep it in order or swap the two substrings. That's fine.
Mhm. Okay, so this is actually hinting to another recursive procedure. Uh, what happens is when we scramble, we we can, like, suppose we are initially doing the split operation for like this. I'm just calling this a split operation. So suppose I'm doing the split operation on first string. So what I need is, like, suppose this f like uh, does match procedure just returns whether these substrings can be a scrambled version of each other.
Yeah.
So it will be something like these will accept as like left substring, and it will accept the right substring. Okay. Um, okay. So what we have here is, mhm. um, like, let me try it with an example. Like, I'm
Okay.
just going with s1 equals to
I
a
think
b
I can
c
give
d
you an
e.
example instead of you doing that. I can give you that example.
Okay.
So let's do this example. Second. So this is your example. Just tell me if you can see how this will happen.
Okay. For this example, I think, like, we can just try the first split here, like these one without swapping, and then in this one we just split at g between g and r, and
Right.
like swap them.
Yeah, that's correct.
Mhm. So if at any point we try, like, first of all, the character frequency is one thing. Like if the character frequencies are not changing at all, so if the character some character appears like not like you can say non-equal frequency in both strings, so answer is directly false in that case.
Yeah.
uh, like we cannot just make some character appear here. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
what I'm trying to see is if we get any permutation of like rate, can we return true? I'm just trying to check that.
All right.
Like that's a one way to that's one direction I'm thinking on. Like if I get P A E R G, can I will this be true or not? Like if I choose to split and I apply it here. Okay, like suppose I move this. Okay, I can just easily choose this one, move it here. P will be at the end, like after first. So what happens after that? We can just apply. This one will return true actually. And what if like I want to do like suppose P was stuck here instead of here? Like how would that affect? I'm just trying to see. We can just
Mm-hmm.
like uh, like this is the example I think which might trick. Uh, so, like I'm just trying to make substrings where like these last characters are not together. That's why I'm
Yeah.
just manipulating the strings. So this would be I think a tricky example. I'm just trying to figure out whether this one is working fine or not. Like this one and R E E G A. If it works in this case, I think I would be reasonably sure whether it is working for each permutation. Um, so because when we divide, we are just restricted to that bound. Like as soon as
Yeah.
we
You are.
either we get a prefix or either we get a prefix or suffix fixed, we cannot just swap the characters again. So that's the restriction I'm trying to figure out.
Yeah.
Like suppose either we move this R to the right immediately and then R won't move again. If we move RE to the end, it will still be a trouble because T cannot move back. So what we have to do is we have to move uh, RET to the end, like at the very least. I'm just trying to deduce what each constraint, like each is becoming a constraint on the further split operations. So I can reasonably say it won't work for each permutation, and answer should be false for this case.
Yep.
Okay, like the general process should be something along the lines like suppose it accepts to what I'm doing is suppose if there is a procedure which accept two strings and returns to like it's actually the same problem. So what my idea would be a recursive procedure to sort of like I'm just writing pseudocode for reference right now. Like
Okay.
I'll be trying all prefixes, like all non-empty prefix, like proper prefixes, like they're not including the complete string. Suppose I try like position P, I'm trying like P is the position I'm trying. So like so let me source and target. So what I get is left part, right part, and what I do is I have to split the target also into those parts. Uh, whether we can make like we need both. Uh, let me use actually sort of like suppose the prefix is length is 2, the split point we choose 2 and string length is 7, source is 7 length string.
Okay.
This is my assumption 7. So what I'm doing is if I split the left string has length 2, so what I try is either the prefix of length 2 of target should match like it should have target like 0 to 2. This string should match with the left, and like the remaining parts. I'll assist with trying not to swap in this step. I'll be doing this for all split points, and if I get a true in like any for any split point, then it should work.
Right. Yeah. So your way of splitting was you split into left and right. So what is left and right
It's
again? Just recap.
uh, like just I choose a split point and divide the source string into two left and right substrings,
Okay.
like the prefix and suffix.
Okay. So you describe like for you
Right
like
now,
when you calling recursively, you're dividing the target into the same length of left and same length as right,
entire, yeah,
and then
yeah,
you call
and
the
I'll
recursively.
try both directions actually. I'll try both
Okay.
directions. The
Okay.
like it
Okay.
can
So
when I
you're
when I
placing right
swap, then I'll
first.
be comparing it with the suffix.
Yeah, you're placing right first
Like
and then left and the other way is left and then right. Yeah.
yeah, so that's the thing. Like suppose for this one, like if the length of left is 2, so what I'll be doing is 2 to 6 should like both of these conditions should match. Like
Yeah.
these both should return to if we chose not to swap at this position, or
Yeah.
like or we have is like match target. Now I'll be choosing the last two characters. Like you can say like okay, we just choose the first five characters and 0, comma 4 and compare it with the right part. In this case, we chose to swap and
Hmm.
match target substring 5. I'm assuming like inclusive indexing. That is fine, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
Like yeah, if this condition works,
This
then
looks yeah, yeah, this looks fine to me. Now,
sorry.
what's the time complexity of your solution right now?
Right now, it is exponential in the sense. So, like, it can be optimized to like n n power 4 at the very least, like
Okay.
n power 5 right, n power 5 right now. You see, like
Okay. So
one
do you
step
think we
for
can
one for it.
optimize this through n to the power 4? I think I would be satisfied if this is optimized to n to the power 4.
Okay. So like right now, what I'm doing is like it is for each substring. Like left is also a substring, right is also a substring. We have four parameters right now, and we have like the p parameter is iterating over the length. That's why I'm getting the fifth like n factor.
Yep.
Um, I'm just trying like where to squeeze that one. So what we have to do is mm, like left part is compared. We cannot just right now memory complexity is n power 4. Like we have this dp table, you can say.
Okay. So
uh,
what does each state mean in this TP table?
like the state will be something uh, like p like you can say s1 like start of like it will be storing substring of first two integers substring of source string.
Okay.
Last two other two integers will be like representing a substring of target string, and
Okay.
it will be storing true or false whether we can scramble it or not.
Yeah. Okay.
So like I'm just assuming S1, S2, and T1, T2. Like S1 is start, T1 is start, and like S2 is end, and T2 is end. So
All right. I think in the so you're implementing this recursively, right? At the moment, you're
yeah,
implementing this
right,
recursively. Do you think we can
yeah.
do this iteratively instead?
Iteratively also we can do it. Like it
Do you
can be
think this
done.
will help us? It will help us in some way doing this iteratively. It
Okay.
might be able we might be able to reduce the time complexity if we do this iteratively.
Mhm. Okay. So if we try the split points, what I'm thinking is, suppose I'm moving the ra- uh, like you can say the right hand right for substring. So what happens is you have to the left checks are already done, but the right one still needs to be done. Uh, this one seems a bit tricky there. Mm, Like right now, our process is something like fixing S1 and T1 to be specific. My idea is right now I'll be computing for small lengths first, and like
Okay, so you would start with,
these yeah string length ones will directly match if they are like same characters.
yeah,
And
all
like
right,
my idea to go for small lengths first is because each state depend upon the strings of small strictly smaller length, so all the
yes,
states will be computed first.
yep.
So right now it's actually not directly apparent how to reduce it like further
I think you
to
should, if you maybe start implementing, you would see
uh,
this. Like the length
can
thing, I think that's you moving in the right
uh,
direction.
or,
If you maybe start
or,
already, you would see it.
I cannot hear you properly. Hello, what
Is
did
my
you
voice
say?
clear now? Is my voice clear now?
Uh, slightly,
Like,
slightly, I can hear you
is
a
there
bit
some
better.
problem? Is there
Yeah,
some problem
I think
with the
now
length?
I think I can hear you.
Okay, so if you in my opinion, if you start implementing the iterative procedure, the length thing that you just told, I think you
Hmm.
might be onto something, and you might be able to arrive at the end of the power four solution. You can start
Okay,
implementing that, if,
all
whatever
right.
way you can think of.
Uh, okay, so I'll just be implementing uh, a function which is scramble match. It will be accepting string like source and the target string we want to achieve. Right now, I'm assuming same length, so there's like I can check the empty string cases. So what after that is right now like my DP table um, match. You can say right. Sorry. Mm, So okay. So I'm just adding a comment. Okay. So my idea is like I'm fixing the length to be one, and what we have is S1, and we have a constraint actually on we always compare the same length string. So
Yep,
S2 minus S1 plus 1 will always be equal to T2 minus T1 plus 1.
yep,
So I think we can reduce the DP state to
yep. That's what I
S1
was getting at.
T1 length,
Yep,
like this is the
that's what I
length,
was getting. That's what I was
because
getting at.
after okay. Okay, so in this case will be like substring starting like source starting at P1 and uh, like source starting at S1 and target starting at T1. We'll be comparing that substring, and if that those can be scrambled to each other, then we have this like order of
Yep,
n.
yep. That's what I was
Okay,
getting at. Yep,
okay. Like I'm just going for length smaller equal to. Okay, what we have here is right now I'm just fixing the start point. Like I'm using the same variables just for reference. Now plus length because I don't want that substring to go outside. this one might need a
So
check
you're
later.
assuming one-based indexing or zero-based indexing in this?
Zero based indexing would be zero based here.
Okay,
So
so do you think this for loop is right then?
right now
Like
it is
conditional?
like yeah, then that's the
Okay,
condition
yeah,
I
yeah, it's
mentioned
fine,
that.
it's fine, it's fine. Never mind, it's fine. Yeah.
Okay. So for length one, it is already comparing. Uh, like I think it is a good idea to initialize the length one case first. So I'll
Yeah.
just do that. The indentation of it. Uh, I just sign true. True only if the characters are matching.
Yep.
Uh, source dot char add. Okay. So this will sign for like zero length case. So at this point, I need to check the split points, like two split
Okay.
points. So like split points we can think of as like setting this string length of the left portion
Okay.
in left equals to one. Left must be less than length, strictly less than length.
Yeah. Because we need
Yeah,
non-empty substrings.
non
Yeah.
empty. Yeah. So what do we have here is like uh, in this whole iteration, the only uh, the one which will be updated would be length. This parameter would be updated. We are
All
just
right.
working to update this one. So if we have divided into this portion, what do we have here is uh, like I'm just right now writing. I'll just convert into code right now. Like S1 P1 left should match, and like S1 plus left P2 plus left. Like this is for the I'm just deriving the indices for the right part, and
Yeah.
this one would be the length of the right part would be length minus left. Now, if both of these are true, then we can just set this one to true.
Yep.
So, so we can actually what I get here is uh, I'll just copy paste it this one. That is okay. Like I'm just storing it there. Initially, it is false, so we can just
Okay.
the DP values are filled with false default, but I can just fill it.
So is a new
Yeah, this one
boolean
is
a match?
yeah. These are
Is new,
boolean values,
okay,
so we can.
you have initialized as false. Fine.
So and in other case, this one was a case we didn't swap. So if what if we chose to swap something?
I'm sorry, you're breaking off a bit.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, it's fine now.
Can you hear? Okay. So in this case, what will happen is what I'm trying to see is the like which one will be compared to the like T1 left length substring. Which one will be compared? I'm just trying to compute the indices here. The right length part. It should be something like length minus left, like the length of right part. This is uh, like this part. Can you see my selection here?
Yeah, I can.
This. So this one will be the length of the right part. So know that we know that we have scrambled. So the last left, like these many characters will be moving to first. So if these one matching, and what we have match like this one right now, if the prefix T1 plus you can say left length minus left. Yeah.
Okay,
Now in
so
this
I'm
this
a
is
bit
checking whether
confused.
it's
I'm a bit
swapped. So
confused here. Like I'm a bit confused with
Okay,
the notation that you used here.
okay. I just simplify the code a bit. Right will
No,
left.
just a second. So here in this line, just a second, in this line, so you're matching the right part with the left length,
Uh,
same length part, right, of the target string.
yeah,
The right part of the source string
yeah.
will be the same
Yeah,
length part of the left.
this is the start point of that length. This is actually the
So
start point to index.
so this is for the left part. You're matching the left part in the first DP state that you're using, and the second is the right part that you're matching, right?
Uh, the left. Actually, I took the right part first, like the left length part.
You're
I'm
matching the
comparing.
right part first. Okay.
Yeah,
Like
like
what are you
the one
matching
with.
in this equation? What source part are you matching first?
Okay. Suppose we have like I'm just writing above. Suppose A B C D E, and I'm trying to split it here. So
Yep.
the left is left. We have here left equals to 2 here, and length equals to 5. So
Yep.
what this part is doing is like indices are like S1 would be I think 0 like in this equation. So
Okay.
my idea is 0 to like I just pick the left length. These two characters, these are moved to the right. Like I get C D E A B. Like
Yep.
in this case, we have scrambled. So I have what I did check was like this substring. Okay, like I'm writing the final sub like source string two. So for source one, it will be comparing like it should compare. Okay, my bad. I took a wrong bad example here. Like left should be 3 here. Sorry for that.
Okay.
ABC. So what we have here is suppose S1 is 0, S2 is T2, S1 equals 0, T1 equals to 0, and length equals to 5. Like the very first split of what will happen here.
Okay.
So at this point, what I tried is suppose I fix the length of left part to be 2.
I'll interrupt you just for a second. What I'm trying to understand from your very definition of the question is that you're matching the last left characters, right? Last
With
left
the
characters
first
of with the first
source
left
with the
characters of the target string,
yes,
right?
yes,
And you're matching the for last like the first length minus left
uh,
characters of the source with
uh,
the last ones of the target.
yeah, that's my core idea.
Okay. Um, so how does this like just a second? So I need to understand how does this implement the swap part? The last left characters of the source will match to the first left. Okay. Um, I'm not sure that this implements the swap thing. Okay. So you're splitting at this point and you're swapping it. Instead of doing this, I think that what you should do is you should match the first length minus left characters with the starting part, rather than uh, like
Okay,
it's
I'll try
very
to simplify it a bit to see if we can get a
yeah,
bit more
because
readable
a
thing.
swap means that you swap the like you're matching the right part of that, so that would make
Okay,
more
so
sense, right?
this case is clear, right?
Yeah, the first
This one.
case is clear. It's pretty simple.
Okay, so in this case we have uh,
I don't think they're the same thing. I'm having trouble like figuring out if they're the same thing.
okay. I'm just uh, minus left. Like this is just for convenience. So left and right are giving me the string lengths. So we have this, the right part will be compared by the
Okay, so just a second, I'll
prefix.
interrupt you again. So I think this will eventually solve the answer, but it's like just by writing ways, it's not like very intuitive, because this will compute the final answer, because when you're iterating on left, the opposite inverse case would be covered eventually when you're
Yeah,
iterating on the
yeah,
left
that's
like
why.
thing. That's why it will cover. But the better thing to do, you can ignore this for now. It's fine. You've done done it this way. But better thing to do would be doing it straightforward, selecting the first length minus left characters and matching it with the first part, the right part, and or the left part. Basically, that would have been
So
better.
that
The
will
last
just, I think, move the conditions from this to this. I really don't see like how it is making the difference. But
the like the right you said in this case itself, you haven't like you have selected the first two characters, and okay, you're selecting the first three characters, right? So instead of doing this, you match the first three characters here with the right part instead of so that's more intuitive because you're actually doing the swap part here. It's fine,
Mhm.
it works perfectly well because eventually in the whole picture of
Okay,
things all our
okay,
operations get counted.
I should have wrote like this one should have come here, like this one is the comparing the right part first, like moving the right part to the,
So you have moved the right part to the first part,
yeah.
but you're again, so you're maintaining the right part is not. Yeah, this is fine. This looks fine. Yeah, this is fine. Yep.
Yeah, yeah, I had. Let me do this comment now. So does it work? And
Yeah,
I think the
this
time
work this
complexity is
works.
order of.
And the buff.
Uh, do you want me to run some sample or
Yeah, yeah. Please do that.
okay?
Just
Like
run the
I'll have to
sample
take a
itself. Just run the
pretty.
sample itself.
Okay, okay. So we have this source string, and do you
Or
want
you
me to
can run
handle
a
the empties?
smaller. You can run a smaller sample. I think this can become really complicated while running because
Yeah, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Suppose we have A, B, C, D as like this is the source. Even now it will go, I think, complicated. Uh,
you can use a
uh,
two-letter string or three-letter string. That would be easier to use.
A, B, C, and B, C, A. Suppose that's what I'm going for. Right
Okay.
now we have this. Like I'll just make somewhat like a table, like S1, P1, length. So what we have here is right now, I'll have to go for each pair. Uh, I'll just uh, do this is it. Right now, what we have, okay, I'll have to go for each pair actually. I made a
Okay.
typo
So
here.
we can assume others to be zero. Just write the one ones.
Uh, okay, just the ones. So it will be like,
Actually, like I'm pretty convinced your
yeah,
solution is correct. I'm pretty convinced your solution is correct, but we're out of time right now. So yeah, let's stop this here. Do you
okay.
have any questions before we end this interview?
Mm-hmm. Like in specific regard to this question or like in general also.
Yeah, anything.
Mm, like this was an interesting question. So for first problem, were you looking for an like one space solution?
Nope,
Like
I wasn't.
that wasn't in.
I that's why
Okay.
I geared you towards and okay, I'll share the
Mhm.
interview feedback here itself. So one thing that I
Yeah.
haven't said.
Just what I want to add, like, it would be great if you can just give a feedback on how he did. What was the level of questions, and what was the general expectation you had, and was
All
it
right,
met or
so
not?
all right, yeah, that's what I'm getting at. So first of all, like let's start with the positives. Obviously, you're pretty strong in data structures and algorithms. The second problem was testament to it. It was not an easy problem to solve. during the time of an interview. So that was actually a lead code hard code problem, but I was fairly confident that you would be able to do it. So yeah, good job on that. You did solve the
Thank
problem
you.
correctly, and I'm pretty sure your solution is works for all test cases as well. Uh, Now, for some things which are not related to problem solving part, for example, you didn't ask a lot of any, in fact, questions regarding the input or something. So in this case, it's fine because so the binary search, in particular, the binary search tree question could have easily been like the values could have easily been double values, and you didn't
Mhm.
like check in with me that. So
Okay.
those are
Like
some
the
pitfalls.
sample were actually holding the those values. That's why it was assumed.
Yeah. Okay, but yeah, try avoiding assuming anything
Okay.
as much as possible in an interview. So, like I said
Mhm.
earlier, spare some 3 or 4 minutes to just verify the input first at the beginning of your interview. So there's one thing that you can work on. You're you like I figure that you're a person who is very well versed in data structures algorithms. So you just straight dive down into the most efficient solution at the beginning of your interview. That's something you can like. It's I would not advise doing that. You might try to start with some very like a brute force solution even is fine, or some more inefficient solution you can think of, because it is possible that the interviewer is asking for a solution that's easier to write than like a solution that's more like efficient performance
Mhm.
wise, but it's much harder to write in the time of an interview. So there's that second thing. I have like basically I had to gear you in the first question itself, because I
Yeah.
was seeing that you were going for rotations of trees, and that would have been like very hard to implement during an interview time. So
Mm.
instead, it would have been a good idea to ask for simple implementation. Apart from that, yeah, this everything else was fine. Uh, like even in some parts when you get stuck in implement, like when you're thinking and you get stuck, just like keep saying stuff. If don't go quiet, because that's like very hard to gauge if you're thinking at all or not, right?
I
So
was just like I just wanted to gather my thoughts before I spoke. Like those.
okay, so if you're like if you really do need to like calm down for a second and like stay quiet, you should ask your interviewer that if is it okay if I
Oh.
can think for a minute right now. So
Mhm.
that's fine as well. Like the interviewer is like understands perfectly. He's a human too. Like they would be absolutely okay with it if he's a nice interviewer, of course. So yeah. Other than that, the algorithms part can't complain. Everything was fine. Yeah, I think that was a good interview. Yeah,
I also had a very nice experience.
yeah. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, both of you. So I just hope that you got a lot of insights from this, and you just like got an idea of how to prepare for interviews. What are the expectations? Thank you so much, Kunal. Thank you so much, Tarpreet. It
Pleasure.
was like a pleasure having you. So thank you so much for attending. Just wanted to know that tomorrow we have a session with Tripti. She's an Adobe Women in Tech scholar, and she's an R&D in Adobe right now. It's at 5 p.m. IST, so we would like to see you there. Thank you so much.